Have you ever sat across from someone you loved, someone you built a life with, and suddenly realized you never really knew them at all? For 20 years, I thought my marriage was built on love, trust, and mutual respect. My wife and I were high school sweethearts. We had the kind of love story people envy, meeting young, overcoming long distances, growing up together. We weathered storms, raised 2 beautiful kids, and built a life filled with love and laughter. If you had asked me a few months ago, I would have told you that our marriage was unshakable. But that illusion shattered on a chilly evening just after Christmas. It was supposed to be a simple reunion, a cozy dinner with a few of my wife's old college friends. The kind of night where you reminisce about the past, laugh about old memories, and catch up on life. I had no idea that within the span of a few hours, everything I thought I knew about my wife, my marriage, and the past 20 years of my life would unravel. It started with an innocent comment. One of my wife's old roommates, a woman I had met only a handful of times over the years, casually mentioned how amazing it was that we had met so young, survived our wild college years, and still ended up together. I laughed, playing along, saying something like, "I'm not sure if my wife was as wild as I was," but before I could finish, my wife cut her off. Not a playful interruption, not a joking, "Oh, stop it," but a sharp, almost panicked dismissal. Her face turned pale, her fingers clenched around her wine glass just a little too tightly. Something about her reaction didn't sit right with me. That was the moment my entire world began to crack. Over the next few days, piece by piece, the truth came tumbling out. An ugly, gut-wrenching truth I never saw coming. My wife, the woman I had trusted more than anyone in this world, had been keeping a secret from me for over 2 decades. She had been unfaithful. Not once, not twice, but with multiple men during the first 2 years of our long-distance relationship. And the worst part? She had spent the past 20 years pretending like none of it ever happened. This isn't just a story about infidelity. This is a story about betrayal, gaslighting, and the slow, painful realization that sometimes love is not enough. And that's how I found myself making the hardest decision of my life. I decided to walk away. The car ride home from that dinner was suffocating. I had been married to this woman for 20 years, but in that moment, she felt like a stranger. I tried to shake the feeling, to tell myself I was overthinking it, but my gut wouldn't let it go. Her reaction at dinner had been too sharp, too defensive. The way her friend had clammed up, the awkward silence that followed, it was as if I had stumbled onto something I was never supposed to know. I turned to her as I drove, my voice calm but firm. "What was that about? What was what about?" She replied, her eyes locked on the road ahead, avoiding mine. "At dinner. The way you shut down your friend when she started talking about college," she shrugged, brushing it off. "It was just embarrassing. I didn't want to talk about it." Something in her tone, too casual, too dismissive, sent a chill down my spine. "It's not a big deal," she added. But it was. I knew it was. I pressed on. "Your friend told me to have an honest conversation with you. Why would she say that?" Silence. She shifted uncomfortably in her seat, then let out a short, nervous laugh. "I don't know. People say weird things sometimes." I knew she was lying, and in that moment, I made a decision. "I'm staying at my brother's tonight." Her head snapped toward me. "What? Why?" "Because I need you to tell me the truth. And I don't think you will unless you know I'm serious." She scoffed, shaking her head. "You're being ridiculous." "Maybe," I said. "But I'll see you when you're ready to be honest." And with that, I packed a bag and left. The next morning, she showed up at my brother's house, pale and anxious, and then the confession came. She admitted to sleeping with several men during her first 2 years of college. At first, she tried to downplay it, saying she didn't think we would last back then. that we were young, that it didn't mean anything. Then, as I pressed for more details, the true depth of her betrayal unraveled. At least 10 men. At least. 3 of them were guys she had introduced me to during my weekend visits. One of them she was still in contact with. The words felt like knives, each one cutting deeper than the last. And the worst part? She still didn't think it was a big deal. It was a long time ago, she said. Why does it matter now? Why does it matter? Because for 20 years, she had looked me in the eyes and told me she loved me. For 20 years, she had let me believe our love story was pure, untarnished. For 20 years, she had pretended. And now, she expected me to just move on? No, I couldn't. I wouldn't. People say forgiveness is the foundation of a strong marriage, that everyone makes mistakes. That's what her family told me. That's what my family told me. It was 20 years ago. You've built a life together. Don't throw it all away over a few mistakes. But this wasn't just about a few mistakes. This was about 2 years of deception, 2 decades of silence, and the complete disregard for my feelings when I finally learned the truth. If she had shown genuine remorse, if she had fallen to her knees and begged for forgiveness, if she had even tried to make things right, I might have considered therapy. I might have tried to work through it. But she didn't. Instead, she doubled down, insisting that what she did was normal, that I was overreacting, that it was just sex and meant nothing. That's when I knew. This wasn't just a betrayal of the past, it was a betrayal of the present. So on January 2nd, I filed for divorce. She didn't believe me at first. She thought I was bluffing. Until the papers arrived in the mail, then and only then did she start acting like she cared. We can go to counseling, she pleaded. We can work through this. But it was too late. Not because she had cheated, but because she had never truly loved me enough to respect me. My kids took it hard. At 17 and 19, they were old enough to understand, but not old enough to escape the pain. My 19-year-old daughter asked if I had cheated on their mother. She had seen too many friends with fathers who had left for another woman. My wife hesitated, and then, for the first time in this entire ordeal, she did something I respected. She told them the truth. No, your father was faithful. I was the one who cheated. It didn't make things easier, but at least it was honest. My son, furious at his mother, decided to stay with me. It crushed her. I didn't want that. As much as I despised what she did to me, I didn't want my children to lose their mother, so I encouraged him to keep the door open. She was a good mom to you for 17 years. Don't let this one thing erase that. Slowly, he started spending time with her again, and I started rebuilding my own life. I moved into a new house. I traded in my old car for something nice, a Lexus LC500. A midlife crisis? Maybe. But damn, it felt good. And then the most unexpected thing happened. A woman at work, someone from a different department, asked me out for coffee. I wasn't ready. But for the first time in months, I smiled, because I knew, someday soon, I would be. Looking back, I realized that this was never about the cheating itself. It was about what it represented, a complete and utter lack of respect. If my wife had truly loved me, if she had valued our relationship, she would have told me the truth, long ago. She would have let me make an informed choice about my own life. Instead, she lied. She manipulated. And then, when the truth came out, she gaslit me into believing I was the problem. But I wasn't. I was just a man who loved too deeply, who trusted too blindly, who believed in a version of our marriage that never really existed. Walking away wasn't easy, but it was necessary, because sometimes the most important thing you can do is choose yourself. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more real-life stories like this. And if you've ever faced betrayal, just remember, you deserve better.